Hey everybody, it's the interview queen Alicia Atout here, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to my interview with Sam from Chevelle. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Super psyched to have you on, so thank you a ton for joining me.
Yeah, I'm literally ready to rock and roll. I'm
Oh yeah,
ready to
I'm
get
there
back to
too.
shows. Yeah.
First off, how are you doing over there? How are you holding up?
We're doing well. We just had our I don't know, our 10th record, 10th album come out, and I think the thing that's hardest about it is not being able to go and play the songs live because it's like building the ramp and the big flaming hoop you want to jump the truck through and you just can't do it. So it's funny, some of our management and stuff say just keep writing and stuff, but took 4 years to write Naradius, this album, and it has to come to fruition before it feels right to keep pushing forward writing. We just have to get out and do some shows.
I could imagine it just kind of driving you a little bit crazy because you are so used to that rhythm. You write a record, you record a record, you drop it, then
Mhm.
you hit the road. So it almost
Yeah.
must feel like a little piece of this release is missing because of that.
I mean, it's even bigger than that because at this point, with the way that albums work, they're essentially a promotional tool, right? So you put out an album of 13 songs and you get maybe one, two, three of those songs kind of hit. And even fans they don't necessarily listen to whole albums anymore, even if you're a
Right.
fan of a band. So it really does become a promotional tool. And if you can't tour on it, then it's losing probably 95% of its value there.
I mean, that does hit hard, but at least people have new music to listen to. I know people are going
Mhm.
kind of crazy without that. So it's nice you were
Yeah.
able to at least put this out for everybody. But one
Yeah.
thing I did want to ask about before we actually get into more of the record is the fact that last night was actually the WWE Hall of Fame. And
Mm.
for Kane's induction, they used the red, which is huge because that show is just shown to millions. So, are there any wrestling fans in the band between you and your brother? Was that kind of something that would mean a lot, or is it just like another thing out there?
No, I was really nice that they let us know that they were using that song. It's I mean, anytime you get any recognition about something that you worked long and hard on, it's great. I thought it was really cool. I mean, we grew up with wrestling too when we were kids. I don't follow it anymore, but not because I hate it or anything, but I definitely I have a lot of things on my plate. But that being said, I got a lot of people, surprisingly, a lot of people text me about it. So I was like, oh, I didn't know you followed wrestling. So that was really cool. It's bigger than you think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it's huge.
no, it is really big. I mean, I not
Yeah.
only interview musicians like yourself, but I also interview wrestlers, and I'm a TV host in the
Hmm.
world of wrestling. So my entire Twitter feed last night, as soon as his kind of induction in the package came up, so many people were tweeting about the band. I'm like, this is such a crazy coincidence. I'm literally having them on the show tomorrow.
Yeah, it is really cool. And the thing is, we get our management sent us the thing saying that they're going to use it and said, "Is this cool?" Because that you have to approve it and everything. And my brother Pete and I just were both like, "Awesome, that's great, do it right away." So it's cool that, like I said, it's cool that people still listen to music after all these years. It inspires people. I mean, I know I do. I still listen to a lot of the albums I listened to 20 years ago. So.
I mean, just sticking to the wrestling theme, putting you on the spot here just a tiny bit. If you were to kind of have a wrestling persona, what do you think your gimmick might be?
Yeah, I mean, being that there's the different gimmicks of like the bad guy and the good guy and the slimy guy and all that. I mean, I would definitely probably be the good guy, although I wouldn't want to be. I definitely want to play the bad guy.
You can teeter.
Yeah, yeah, right?
Totally.
People do both, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel okay about that.
Well, we had briefly started to talk about it, but it's such an exciting time for the band because a brand new full length record is
Yeah.
out, Naradius. So, is it kind of just a sigh of relief every time you actually drop a new album, especially with how long went into creating this one?
It is a bit of a sigh of relief. What I was going to say is that we wanted to release it sooner, but it just, with everything, you just don't know what if an album is going to connect. And some of our friends have put out albums that kind of got forgotten about right away because there was so much other drama going on in the world, and we didn't really want that to happen. So we just did our best to feel out the what was going on. And for us, it was definitely a sigh of relief to finally put this out, because so many of our fans are saying, oh, you've never gone this long without an album out. Usually it's 2.5 years. So the album is for sure so much better because it took that much longer to write it.
You mentioned 2.5 years, but this one was actually doubled, as it was 5 years in between the last record release, which is a fairly long time, especially when you're a fan who knows every time this band drops an album, it's going to be good. So did it kind of feel like that much time had passed between albums, or because you were working on it and conceptualizing the whole thing, it was just like, all right, time to get back on that bike and away we go?
I think you're right. It didn't ever feel like a long amount of time because we were always working on it. And went and did this long tour in 2019, which the album was, a lot of it was done in 2019 before we went and decided to do this tour, but we couldn't get in to record it. And then because we took so much longer, we ended up writing a bunch more music and using that music instead of the stuff that's why I said it. I think it just turned out so much better. In fact, so much better that at times my brother and I are talking about, we should take 5 years to do every album if it's going to be that much better. I don't know if that will happen, but
if that's the rhythm you end up getting in, I mean, hey, the record was great, worth the wait. So I'm sure people will not complain too much.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, it really does end up being about the music, about the songs. And if the songs are that much better, you just have to do it.
100%. I mean, this album does have a super cool, just overall feel and theme of space and interstellar travel, a big fascination that Pete happens to have. So did that kind of end up carrying over to you and end up being something you two were kind of able to just share and talk about, almost like bond over while making the record?
For sure. We do anyway. Pete's writing is very much, he doesn't just want to write about just his personal experiences. He likes to write about ideas and other people's ideas. And I think that gives them a lot more things to pull from. And the whole interstellar travel and populating another planet, it's just the daunting idea of it is so overwhelming that I don't see how anyone could not be fascinated by it. But that's just me. What the hell do I know?
Was there kind of a moment or some conspiracy or something other that sparked that whole thing and you were just like gung-ho about it thinking, yeah, this is totally where we're going to take the direction of the album? Or did it just kind of gradually happen over time for you two?
It gradually happened over time, but definitely one of those moments was when they put that press release out that they were looking for people that would be willing to colonize Mars, and they had all these people sign up. And Pete and I just looked at us and I'm like, who the hell is signing up for this? What kind of a person is taking a one-way trip to Mars so they can live underground or not live? Who knows? And that is just a very different person than anybody I know.
A lot of these songs were written quite some time ago, like we mentioned, but to see them now dominating the charts, so many different charts, were you expecting that kind of response and such a positive return? Or were you guys coming back saying, hey, people like the album, we'll just kind of see where it goes?
I think it's always a surprise when something connects, but the first single, Self-Destructor, both Pete and I looked at each other and were like, I don't know if this is going to connect. It's a long song and there's a lot of parts to it. It's a journey. And while it's the music that we love to play and love to write, I just didn't know if people would get it. So I was surprised. I mean, we spent first 3 weeks at radio here at #1. So that in the US, that's a big deal for a 6-minute song, 6.5-minute song.
I mean, it's also cool too to see it topping so many charts with the fact that there are multiple interludes and instrumentals on there. Like you don't see that super frequently. So I think that's also like a nice little touch. Like, hey, we added that in, we did kind of what we wanted, and now it's topping it all.
Yeah. I hope that because as an album as a whole, I feel like it's complete. It's connected, where if you listen from the top to the bottom, it makes sense. So I hope that people do have that time in their life to listen to the whole album that way, to take it that way, because it is a journey. It's hard to find time to listen to something like that, especially when most people are jumping around on playlists and stuff, which I get it. I do the same thing.
Okay, well, just going back to the idea of space and time, I did want to ask you if you could kind of time travel or go to any one place right now, which would you actually really want to visit?
Well, it would definitely be the future.
Okay.
But if the future wasn't an option, probably the 70s.
Yes.
And I say that only because I've been listening to a lot of 70s music, XM radio, XM Sirius, and I don't know, like I love the 80s music. I mean, there's so much good 80s music, but I think that we forget how much bad 80s music there is.
So
That
true.
it just pours in there. I mean, some of the best stuff for sure was the 80s, but the 70s, maybe it's just me, but I felt like it was a little more consistent.
Yep.
And it's just some really, really fantastic stuff. And I was born in 74, but I had no experiences in the 70s. You know, I was 6
Of
in
course.
1981, you know. So I feel like I could go back knowing what the 70s went through, avoid the bad stuff and just hang in the good stuff. I feel like I can make that happen.
Yeah, I've always been a massive fan of music from the 70s, the aesthetic, everything. Just there's some kind of nostalgia and just effortlessness to all of those old tracks. So it would just be incredibly a fly on the wall, just, during like Bee Gees recordings or at certain rallies. I just think, what a time.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Well, I really do want to say thank you so much for taking the time, hopping on here, Sam. It's been an absolute delight being
Sure.
able to learn a little bit more about the record and having you on. So thanks a ton.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Everything's great. We're just waiting to get back to playing music.
Fingers crossed it'll be soon. But to
It
everyone
will be.
watching, this has been Sam from Chevelle. Of course, be sure to check out their new record release and go to aliciaatout.com for plenty more exclusive interviews and features. We'll see you all next time, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.